Hi everybody, it's Ed. Sorry you can't see me. I've got this cobbled together so I can show you the desktop of my little puck PC that I use to run in my audio system for streaming and so forth and so on. So this is the desktop of that little computer, and I'm going to go ahead and start Audirvana. I talk about Audirvana a lot. I love it. I use it for streaming everything. It gives me tons of flexibility, and it's going to boot up here. And when it boots up, the default boot up is your saved albums, whatever they happen to be. Now, one of the things that's interesting, we'll go along the menus on the left-hand side, but what I'd like to show you real quick is under each album, you'll see a little icon. The circle means Qobuz, and it shows it's a high-res file. If you see the little dots, like the title icon, that's title, and it shows whether or not it would be MQA. I don't have any of those because I don't do MQA. And when I come over to Miles Davis Kinda Blue, you'll see a little house icon, and that means it's a local file. So it allows me to mix and match, create playlists, have everything the way I want to. And again, it combines everything. So under My Music, you got albums, you've got artists, you've got individual tracks, which you can save. You've got radios, which are radio stations that I've saved. They're internet radio stations. And then, of course, you have playlists. Now, because I can combine everything from title, Qobuz, and my local files, you'll notice that I have my personal playlists. And we scroll down, you'll see the title playlists. And then scroll down a little further, you'll see the Qobuz playlists. So these are the playlists I have saved in Qobuz and or title. And it allows me to, like I said, combine all of those sources into one interface, which I think is just wonderful. So now under each individual interface, title, I can go just into title and see all of the things I have saved in title. I can go just into Qobuz and see all of the things I have saved in Qobuz. And the nice thing about this is it gives you access to the algorithm. So if you've been playing music on Qobuz, it'll help direct you toward music you might like. Same with title. It'll give you those, the Explorer will give you those playlists from that algorithm. Under local, this is a local hard drive I have, and it's directly connected to my puck PC. And you could go by album, artist, tracks, genre, recently added, I haven't added anything in a long time, high res, MQA, there's nothing there, which I don't do, DSD, which I do have some DSD files, and Audirvana will play DSD or DSF files natively as long as your DAC will decode DSD. But if it doesn't, no worries. You can still listen to DSD. Then you have choice of radio stations, and this is just a menu with like an option of all the radio stations they offer. And then under podcasts, if you want to save podcasts, search podcasts, whatever, it gives you the ability to do that. So again, we're going to go back to the default My Albums view. Along the top here, you can scroll back and forth through screens, and it's really nice because you can go back an unlimited number of times if you want to. I can change the way I orient the screens if I want. I can change the number of functions here, and I also can change the size of the album art. As you can see, I can make it bigger or smaller, which is really nice because it gives you the ability to get, I got bad eyes, I need that. This allows you to sort by various things. You'll also see that here, added date. Sometimes when you start up, if you have a local hard drive, you'll see a bar come across the upper right-hand half of the screen, and it's a progress bar showing it's syncing. Now, what it will do is it'll go through all your local files, and if you don't have artwork or information about it, it will find that artwork and information, and it'll bring it in. And that's really, really nice. Plus, if you click on an album, even though it's on my hard drive, right, I get the data from title about the album information, reviews, so forth and so on, and then clickable links within here that will take me to those resources located in title. Now, Qobuz doesn't really do the clickable links, but it will give you that information. So this is a really, really nice feature because I didn't have the album art or anything. I mean, I can go find the album art here for Eagles' Greatest Hits, and I will do that. But I can also edit it, but I use a different piece of software for that called MP3 Tag. So anyway, let's go back to the albums. And again, we're going to have an album here that's HD. And this was a Steven Wilson remix of ABC, a great 80s British band. And over here, you can see the title, the track number, obviously the artist, what version it is, the duration of the song, the bit depth, and the sample rate. Now there's a unique feature about this, and I'll show you in just a few minutes, that you can determine whether or not it is truly a high-res file, because sometimes they're not. So let's go back here. Now, on the bottom, you'll see the album information and art. You'll see, obviously, your player controls. A volume control, which I don't use the software volume in Audirvana. I have a remote control for my amp, so that's fine. But if I wanted to use my Audirvana and DAC combination as a preamp, I can and control volume right from within the software. Then you'll see a little lock icon. That means that the DAC's in use in exclusive mode, and then over here gives you access to your DACs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start the ABC album. We're going to pick a song, and you may hear it, and it will go ahead and start playing, and you'll see it pop up down here, and the music will start. So get the album information, the album, the singer, and its resolution. In the control bar, obviously, repeat, song, loop, random, play, pause, whatever. But if I push this little button, it'll give you a kind of spectrum analysis of the song and how compressed or not compressed it is, which is kind of an interesting feature. Also, too, if I click on the album art in the lower left-hand corner, it'll bring up the album art, again, show some additional information. But if I look in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little slider. If I slide that over, that gives me the analyzer. So again, it shows the waveform of the music, gives you the play pause. You can favorite it if you want to. It shows whether the software, you're using software volume control, or if the DAC itself has built-in volume control. Shows you what's being loaded out of the PC, so it's coming out as FLAC 2496, but as PCM, because again, we're bypassing all of the hardware in the computer. Any of the audio decoding hardware or firmware in the computer is being bypassed, so it's coming out at 6496, and then you can see what the DAC is doing. It's 2496. One of the interesting things is I can come over here and do an analysis of the track to find out if it is really high res. So now you can see the expected quality was 2496 FLAC. What we detected was 2496 high res. The bit depth 24-bit, bandwidth 48,000, stereo channels, no DC issues, and then shows you how it's treated by the DAC. So I think that's a really cool thing because you'll find files that claim to be high res that aren't really high res. So let's go back to the main interface here. We're going to go ahead and pause this. Okay. So now if I wanted to adjust my DAC, because I could oversample this if I want to, I'm going to go ahead and hit the lock icon to take the DAC out of exclusive mode. So now I can access the menu for it. We're going to come up to the upper right-hand corner. There's little sliders here, the settings, and it's going to open up right to the audio portion. So Windows 10, right? The interesting thing is it shows how much RAM is being used by the software and CPU load. That gets really interesting, and I'll show you that in a second. And you can choose your streaming with SAPI or ASIO or kernel streaming, which I use, which is actually better because it bypasses a lot of the firmware in Wasapi. So now I'm going to go ahead and restart that file, that song, and I want you to look at the CPU load. Initially, it's pretty high, but watch it drop down. There's almost no CPU use at all. Basically, it's just reading the track information and the album art and so forth and so on. Now, if that was a local file, you'd see zero CPU load because I'm actually streaming this. So the CPU is used for obviously reaching out to, in this case, Qobuz to get the song. So it really does show you how much it reduces reliance on the computer. So we're going to go ahead and stop that again. And to access the DAC, I need to take it out of exclusive mode in the lower right-hand corner. And then output devices here. So if I click the little gear next to it, it gives me control over my DAC. I can change all kinds of different things. So I'm using kernel streaming, which I prefer, and you have 3 settings there. The software can auto-detect MQA devices. I don't use that, so I don't worry about it. So my DAC is not MQA. It'll also allow you to handle the direct stream digital files. Now, the Schiit Bi-Frost does not do DSD, so I have it converted to PCM, and it plays just fine and sounds just wonderful. And then it's a little boost to 6 dB just because it sometimes lowers the output level or perceived output level. And then so for controlling the DAC, the maximum sample rate, and again, the Schiit is a 24-bit 192, but if I had a DAC that had higher, I could set it at no limit, doesn't matter, or I could set it at its maximum limit should I want to. And then additional latency when changing sampling rate, I add 1 second because sometimes you'll hear a click, a pop, or whatever. And I've got this DAC restricted to 24-bit because that's all it does. And then you can also set it to mute during sample rate change. So that you can actually control your DAC, whether or not the DAC is controllable via menus of its own or via a remote or an app, you can control it from here and change your sampling. And you do that by coming over here. So now the loading and decoding, the buffer is 4 GB, which I normally use it at. Processing, I'm not using any signal processing. Audirvana does support VST3 plugin, so I could do a digital EQ if I wanted to, but I don't. I choose not to. Or a spatial sound. Upsampling, if I click on the little gear icon, I can choose to upsample whatever I want to. Power of 2, device maximum frequency, 2 times only, or set a custom rate. Or if I had a DSD compatible DAC, I could upsample everything to DSD, which would be kind of pointless in my mind. I don't do oversampling, so I have it deactivated, but I could change it. And if I come down here and do 2x only, then I can choose what algorithm I want, whether I want SOX or RBrain. RBrain I think sounds a little bit better. I can change bandwidth, Nyquist frequencies, all kinds of other stuff. I don't bother with that. So we'll go ahead and close that out. Now my DAC is set to oversample. And then over here you have volume leveling. If I wanted to have all the audio at the same volume, despite whether it's recorded really quietly or whether it's recorded really loudly, this will auto EQ, auto volume EQ everything, and I don't like that, so I don't use it. Software volume control, I could use just my PC, my DAC, going straight into a power amp, and if I enable the volume control, then I could control volume from the software and wouldn't need any other preamp. And again, if the DAC has a volume control, I could access it directly. And then the DAC input, which the sample rate is right now set to 192 because I did the 2 times oversampling. So if I come back down here and start play again on the ABC track, you'll notice over here, it now says 32,192 because I'm oversampling. Now my DAC doesn't do 32-bit, and I think it's a bit of a glitch between the communication between the Unison USB on the Bifrost and the computer and the software, so it's no big deal. But anyway, so I can oversample if I want to. It's entirely up to me. Let me go ahead and click that off because I don't do oversampling. I don't think there's any benefit to it. I can't hear it. I can't hear a lot of things anymore. So that's controlling your DAC within Audirvana, which I think is a really, really nice function. Now I'm going to go over to the next icon, tab at the top, and it's called Local. And that shows you where your local files are saved and stored in your folders. And I have, again, a hard drive. Then for metadata recovery, which again is your album art and album information, you can get from Music Brains, right? And then, you can recover track information on your local files from it as well. Now, the audio analysis, I can do that. The signal analysis you saw, I can do that from that one screen. I can also do it from the settings screen. I can, check the database integrity, all sorts of other things, defragment everything right from in the software. And then I have the option of displaying a number of different things. So database files, whatever. My application obviously is in English. Now for streaming, this gives me access to my streaming services. So I'm Qobuz and I'm connected, and it shows which Qobuz I have, which is Studio. Autoplay from last track. So if I'm on an album and it runs out and it's a Qobuz streamed album, Qobuz will automatically choose to continue to extend with similar sort of music, just like you were doing it in the app. Now here I have a choice of editorial info by Qobuz. You'll notice down here I also have a choice of editorial info by title. I choose title. I think it's got a little bit better choice of the album information. Really nice. I can limit my sampling rate to 192, which is all I can do on Qobuz with a Studio subscription anyway. And on title, I have premium. I don't have MQA, but I'll show you a little trick. again, autoplay from the last track, which if I'm at the end of title, right, it automatically will pick another track. And I've got it set to master even though I don't pay for it. And then HRA, which is high resolution audio streaming, it's a different service I don't use. And Last.fm, which is something I don't use. The next tab over is appearance, and it allows me to choose a light or dark theme. I personally prefer the dark theme. And it says show album covers and track previews. I do that. I can then choose how I organize my display, podcast, whatever. I can move things around. I could go local up top instead of my music. And then keyboard control, that gives me the ability to use the track skip, play, pause controls, or if I wanted, and I had it turned on, I could use the volume controls on my Windows keyboard. And then there is also a remote app that's available for iOS and Android. I've tried it. I don't use it. I have a nice big screen in my listening room. I can see everything from my seating position. I don't really want to use an app to connect to it. I just feel better about using it directly to my screen. And then a bunch of other settings. I can reset everything. There's shortcut keys here. I can use space and, different keys that are automatically built into Audirvana. And then again, on my account, this is where it shows up in the upper right-hand corner. It's your account. My subscription is currently active. I'm good through June 22nd, 2024. I can manage my account. You can only have one version of Audirvana Studio running at a time. It's a bit of a drawback, but it is what it is. And then obviously if you need any information, help, whatever, there's a great community forum. It really is good. Contact us, so forth. Shows the latest version of the software. I can have it checked for an update every month, or I can automatically check for an update. And as you'll see, my Audirvana is currently updated. And then just some obviously trademark stuff. So if I go back to the albums, now one of the tricks I wanted to show you is, let me come down here and find a title track that is high res. All right. So here is the Kaleo album AB, and you'll notice that when I bring it up, it says MQA right over here in the track information. Now, I don't have an MQA decoder, but Audirvana will, whether you signed up for MQA and title or not, will automatically do the first unfold. So you would expect if I'm not doing MQA, the best I'd get is 1644 FLAC. But if I hit play, we come down here and look, you'll see it says 1644 FLAC MQA. But look over here. It's actually decoding it at 2488. So I get the first unfold on MQA without paying for it, which I think is kind of neat. So that's a bit of an overview on Audirvana. You guys have some questions. I'm by no means an expert on this stuff, but I'll be happy to help anybody who's interested. And it's just, I think, really great. It allows you to also, too, I forgot to do this. It's a great thing. It allows you to search for stuff. Now, I'm a fan of Randy, the Cheap Audio Man, and he put out that there was a Tool song that he used to look for things. So I did a search for Tool. And then I could check the albums, whichever one I wanted. He recommended a song called Eulogy. So I can search through all of the albums for Tool from Qobuz, which is where I happen to search this one for. It'll show the albums. It'll show the singles. It'll show others, which might be mixes, or in Audirvana's case, sometimes they confuse things with various stuff. Let me run back here to search results and look for a title search. So, boy, I'm dating myself. Here's a Mr. title search. And it'll show you tracks, the top tracks, which according to their play is the most frequently played. And you have a ton of those things. And the other interesting thing is you could sort it by title if you wanted to. So, or can I? Maybe not in that setting. I may be wrong. I'm sorry. I don't do that very often. Or if I scroll down here, I can look at all the Mr. albums that are available, and they're usually in date order, newest at the first of the line. And then any of the singles that were released, and if there were compilations or playlists that they appeared on, it would show up here as well. So that's how you can search an album, which I think is just absolutely terrific. So now, one of the things I did want to show you is, here is an album that shows it being an HD file on Qobuz. And Boris Blank is one of the guys from Yellow, so I'm a nut. So it shows 2482. I'm going to go ahead and hit play, right? And it'll start down here in the lower left-hand corner. You'll see the album. And I can click on it, hit the slider over here and do the audio analysis. And maybe it's changed, but it used to not be 2488. It is actually, as you'll see, expected quality 2488. Detected quality is it's a 320 kilobit MP3 file. But it is 24-bit, but it is MP3. So here's a case where you can show that what was supposed to be a high-res file definitely isn't a high-res file, which I think is kind of an interesting function that this has. So we're going to go back here. We're going to go ahead and exit out of there. So I believe Audirvana offers a lot of benefits. It's certainly, from a playback standpoint, it is totally bit perfect. It is really, really good. It does something with the playback you just can't believe. If I were to, go ahead and launch the Tidal app in my computer and run it from my computer, just the regular Tidal app, and then run that same song through Audirvana, the audible differences are noticeable and much better. Better separation, better depth, better bass response, more detail all across the board, and just, I think, cleaner, darker, blacker background on the music. Plus, it is less, I think this is less clunky than Tidal or Spotify, or, well, Qobuzz's actual software interface for their app is really, really good. Very much like Roon. Now, I have tried Roon. That's great. I think Audirvana sounds better for what it's worth. So, anyway, that is an overview of Audirvana. If you have any questions, again, please leave me a comment down below. Also, too, if you want, you can give me a like. It really doesn't matter because I'm not trying to do this for a living. And I also want to give some credit where credit's due. Thanks to Randy, the Cheap Audio Man. Obviously, I'm one of his guys, and I really, really appreciate all his hard work. And that's it. So thank you very much. I will see you guys maybe on the next video. All right, have a great one.